Professor Arjen Dondrop from Mahidol, Oxford Tropical Medicine Research Unit.
Can I use this one?
Is it switched on? That's not on.
Yes. I don't have them. They're not loaded? No. Do you have them on? I loaded them this morning.
So this is not working.
Okay. So my slides are not yet in the system apparently, but let me start anyway. So I'll give a brief update about the situation in the Greater Mekong sub-region in Southeast Asia, and the situation there is special. It's a low transmission area, APIs in general below 10 per thousand per year. All those countries are aiming for malaria elimination, Plasmodium falciparum by 2025, Plasmodium vivax by 2030. But as you probably know, we face in the Greater Mekong sub-region this huge problem of artemisinin resistance and in increasingly also partner drug resistance with high treatment failures. So there's a strong incentive for quick elimination before falciparum malaria becomes close to untreatable. What I'm going to tell you, the take-home messages will be that we see that the soft genetic sweeps we saw in the past with multiple K13 mutations covering small areas, so K13 mutations in the propeller region, the molecular marker for artemisinin resistance. These soft genetic sweeps east of Bangkok are now taken over by a hard sweep, which is driven by a single KELCH mutation, the C580Y. Yeah, I'm starting to get the swing of it to do it without slides. So this one C580Y long haplotype lineage that's apparently very fit and spreading east of Bangkok, but it started to spread as a wildfire when it also took up the plasmapsin 2,3 amplification under drug pressure of DHA piperoquine. And I'll show some new data that this is further driven and selected for by PFCRT mutations, interestingly. It's a bit a sneak preview of the next symposium on the results of the TRACK trials, which will discuss that in much more depth. I'll also start with the acknowledgements because I noticed that I have not a slide for that. So the data are mainly coming from the TRACK trials led by our units. The genetic data are mainly coming from our own molecular lab led by Malika Imbong, and the Sanger Institute and Olivo Miotto is based in our unit. And we are funded by the Wellcome Trust. TRACK was funded by DFID from the UK, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has funded a lot of the Sanger work. So you can go home now, but I'll show you some slides also. So just, you probably all know this, the Greater Mekong sub-region is the cradle of antimalarial drug resistance. We were in a dire situation in the 90s when all these cheap, till then very effective and cheap drugs started to fail. And we were saved by the artemisinins, being very potent drugs with this broad stage sensitive activity, very short plasma half-lives. So we were hoping that this combination, being very potent, having a very short half-life, that they would not fall to resistance, especially when they were deployed as combination therapies. However, probably driven by the long use of artemisinin monotherapies, this was not the case. Around 10 years ago now, we started to notice that there was decreased sensitivity of the Plasmodium falciparum parasites in Western Cambodia, leading to slow clearance after treatment with artemisinins. And that is how we clinically define artemisinin resistance. So it's not full resistance, the parasite is still being killed, but at a much slower rate. As such, that gives a little bit more treatment failure, but treatment failure really picks up when there's concomitant partner drug failure. And that's what we see now increasingly in Southeast Asia. And it's important to say that artemisinin resistance facilitates this appearance of partner drug resistance for two reasons. So you have already slightly increased treatment failure when there's artemisinin resistance in the ACT combination, but also the partner drug is exposed to a much higher parasite burden after the 3-day ACT treatment, because the artemisinins have such a short plasma half-life. So after 6 hours, that drug has disappeared, and after 3 days, instead of just 10 to the 4th parasites being left that have to be killed by the partner drug, there are 10 to the 7th parasites being left. So there's much more exposure to monotherapy partner drug. And this is best illustrated in the situation with artesunate mefloquine on the Thai-Myanmar border. That combination was introduced here, in the 90s, at a moment when mefloquine resistance was already quite prevalent there, but that combination remained very efficacious until artemisinin resistance appeared here, and then you saw a quick reintroduction of mefloquine resistance, PFMDR1 copy numbers going up quite quickly, and a dramatic failure of artesunate mefloquine, forcing a change to DHA piperacin. So once there is treatment failure, then the spread of resistance goes very quickly. Of course, you have much more recrudescent infections that are resistant and then spread further. And these recrudescent infections, no matter what drug is being used, once there are recrudescent infections, they tend to have higher gametocyte carriage and are usually more transmissible, as we have also seen with these other drugs. So this is the situation. This is from the recently finished TRACK trial. Again, in the next symposium, you will hear more details for that. So artesunate mefloquine failing on the Thai-Myanmar border. These are data from Cambodia and Vietnam, northeastern Thailand. DHA piperacin failure is massive there now at the moment. Till recently, the first-line drug in Cambodia that has now moved away from that, back to artesunate mefloquine, which is at the moment still a good combination there. But DHA piperacin drug pressure has been there till around a year ago, and you see these very high treatment failures in DHA piperacin treated Plasmodium falciparum infections in Western Cambodia, but now also in Eastern Cambodia, Northeastern Thailand, and in Southern Vietnam in Binh Phuc province. So what about the genetic epidemiology? So as I said, there used to be all these different CALS mutations being around, more than 75 propeller region CALS mutations detected, most of them associated with the slow parasite clearance phenotype, not all of them, and you see the list there on the right-hand side of the confirmed CALS mutations. But you can see there were multiple origins of these CALS mutations. These were soft genetic sweeps, quite locally, and that in In east of Bangkok, that has now been taken over by this hard genetic sweep, this single lineage of a long haplotype C580Y Kelch mutation, first detected in western Cambodia, now spreading throughout Cambodia, but also in northeastern Thailand, southern Vietnam, and in southern Laos. So that started already before piperacin resistance emerged here, but with plasmapsin 2,3 amplification as a marker of piperacin resistance under drug pressure of DHA piperacin as first-line treatment, that has increased a lot over the last few years, and that has not only caused the spread of these multi-drug resistance parasite, but has also taken over the parasite population. As you can see here, the genetic diversity is reduced quite dramatically. Here you see during the track 1 trial, which was around 2011-2012. Those are the light dots here. And here you see that this is now clustering here in this genetic tree during the track 2 trial, which has just finished. So it's not only the spread, it's also really taken over the parasite population with very limited genetic diversity. And then interestingly, so we were prompted by the publication by David Fidduck's lab that he showed that also certain PFCRT mutations in transgenic parasites, they become piperacin resistant. They already showed in a very small sample that in Cambodia, this PFCRT 145 mutation was a bit more prevalent. And indeed, we also see that in the track 2 parasite samples that we collected, that there is strong selection for not only this 145 mutation east of Bangkok again, but also this 93 PFCRT mutation. And it also has a clinical phenotype. So it's all on top of plasmapsin 2,3 amplification. So that we still think that has driven this initial hard genetic sweep. But on top of that, those CRT mutations give even higher failure with DHA piperacin. And you'll see much more detail on that in the next symposium. So this is where we are at the moment. Cambodia is, as usual, the epicenter of multi-drug resistance, with a lot of the ACTs no longer being efficacious. Artesunate mefloquine is being used at the moment, still efficacious, but from our recent experience on the Thai-Myanmar border, we think that will be short-lived. PFMDR1 amplification is easily gained under drug pressure in the presence of artemisinin resistance. Artesunate pyronaridine is a little bit better, but we know from not that long ago trials in Western Cambodia that also their efficacy was below 90%. So Cambodia is still the big concern, but also the countries around are facing problems. Artemisinin resistance in east of Bangkok, so it's really taken over by this 580Y mutation. We don't see that west of Bangkok, especially in Myanmar. There are still different Kelch mutations circulating. That might have to do that the genetic background, the genetic backbone, might be essential to facilitate the success of the Kelch and the 580Y mutation. And these are a bit older data also from Sanger identifying these backbone mutations that might also be important. Ferredoxin and apoclast gene mutation and CRT mutation. So, all these data, it's always looking a bit in retrospect. I hope that in the near future, genetic epidemiology will be much more used in real time to help the programs to guide the elimination efforts. So there's several things that it can bring us. So real time looking at the genetic markers for antimalarial drug resistance, not only artemisinin, also the partner drugs. If transmission is going down further, do we see that in the genetic epidemiology? If there are outbreaks, we've seen recently several outbreaks in the Greater Mekong subregion. I think genetic epidemiology can also help there a lot. Is it importation from outside? Is it clonal expansion from a few very resistant parasites? Or are there other reasons for outbreaks? And this last slide has nothing to do with genetic epidemiology, except that molecular markers might guide our first-line treatments for our drug use. This is what we do at the moment in Cambodia, drug rotation. So at the moment, artesunate mefloquine could be guided by real-time monitoring of the MDR1 copy number prevalence. These are other possibilities that we can do in the interim till we have new antimalarial compounds coming to the market. Most people estimate that will be 5 years or maybe even a bit longer, depending how well these developments go further. We think that the triple artemisinin combination therapies might be a very good, at least interim solution. Again, in the next symposium, you'll see the results of these triples that luckily are still very effective also in regions with multi-drug resistant falciparum malaria. And this is the conclusion slide. So yes, artemisinin resistance still further evolving in the Greater Mekong subregion. It's now a hard genetic sweep. This very fit, we called it a super bug in the past, but people did not like that term. So let's say it's just a very fit 580Y mutation that has also picked up piperaquine resistance. There's a strong incentive to go for rapid malaria elimination in the Greater Mekong subregion before falciparum malaria becomes close to untreatable. And we might have to switch to these triple artemisinin combination therapies before the new drugs become available. Thank you very much. Sorry for the glitch with the slides.